Welcome back to r/Neighbors from Hell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors. And if you are new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community. And without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And the first one is titled, Who Were You on the Phone With? What? This happened so many moons ago, around 12,410 or about 34 years. I mean, it predates cell phones, internet, yeah, back in those days. Everyone had a phone hooked to a wall. You were not walking around with a device or a phone permanently pressed to your ear or hip pocket. You were chained like a prisoner to the wall. My wife and I lived in an upstairs apartment of a house. We had 2 small kids at the time, very young still. I was in the military at the time. The basement apartment always seemed to attract the strangest people. You know, the type you go out of your way to avoid. Don't want people to know you know them, avoid. Yeah, you know the type. This really freaky couple decided to move out, and the girlfriend decided to just hand the lease over to her sister and boyfriend. We didn't know it at the time, but her sister was toxic. I mean, stick your hand in a full septic tank, eat what you fish out, toxic. Now, I worked days and they worked alternating nights at some drug rehab halfway house or something, so every night one of them would be working. On the first night they moved in, my wife and I put the kids in bed and shortly after went to bed ourselves. I had to be up around 5 AM to get to the base, early morning exercise stuff, and then work. All of a sudden, around 11 PM, the phone in their apartment starts to ring loud, like warehouse phone loud. This thing woke both of us up and the kids, so now we are all wide awake. The phone rang for 30 minutes before the boyfriend picked it up. The rest of the night we could hear him talking very loudly into the phone. He was saying things that I didn't want to know, personal things that nobody wants to know. Yuck. The next night we get the kids in bed, we go to bed, we are exhausted from the lack of sleep the night before, and at 11 PM the downstairs phone rings and it rang for another 30 minutes before she picked it up. For the rest of the night we heard her on the phone. These people had one volume, 11, shout out to Spinal Tap fans. I think these 2 people were the start of the 1-900 phone calls. Again, yuck. All night, every night, for about 2 weeks, there were a few nights that the phone would ring all night long and never get picked up. We were all really tired, no sleep, cranky kids. Neighbors that were made of the same stuff I find trailed on toilet paper before flushing. I started thinking, I have to find a way to stop this insanity. Now, I have a mechanical background, I have worked in construction, wiring, building repair, auto and truck repair. There had to be something I could do. Saturday rolls around and I am in the backyard mowing the grass. Part of my lease agreement, I notice 2 phone connection boxes on the side of the house. The gears in my brain start to formulate my revenge. After I mow the lawn, I open my toolbox and find a wire with 2 alligator clips. I trace the connection going to my phone first to experiment. I jump 2 wires together and check my phone. Ha! Gotcha now! Just before we went to bed, I went outside and jumped the wires to their phone. Oh, it was peaceful. All night we slept, the kids slept, I dreamt of sugar plums, unicorns and fairies. Oh, sweet bliss. The next morning we woke up rested, I removed the wire and we sat down to eat breakfast, and the girlfriend comes home and trumps down into their apartment. I mean, the entire house shook. She had a purpose. Suddenly all hell broke loose. You could hear the door get kicked. She stomped her way through their apartment. I think she was foaming at the mouth, like a rabid skunk. The conversation went something like this. Girlfriend will be GF for ghastly freak, for all you Pokemon fans. Boyfriend will be PS for poor soul. I won't capitalize, just remember volume 11. GF.
Where's she? What the F were you doing all night?
PS. What? Just getting out of bed. You could tell by the area his voice echoed through the floorboards. GF.
Who the hell were you talking to all night? I will kill her.
PS. What? GF.
Don't you what me? I tried to call all night and the phone was busy. All night the phone was busy. Who the F were you on the phone with? All night long.
PS. Nobody, babe. GF throwing the first of many objects. You could hear it crash against the wall.
Don't you dare babe me, you a-hole. I want to know who else you were effing. Who were you on the phone with?
This went on for a couple of hours. Crap was getting thrown, yelling, screaming, words were getting used that would make a pig blush. I was desperately trying not to die laughing and wishing I had some popcorn. It was better than the old radio shows, excitement, thrills, drama, everything. I think their voices are imprinted into the ceiling of that apartment. The boyfriend was finally able to find a way to get out and drive away, still in his underwear. Peace resumed for the rest of the day. I jumped their phone every night from then on. I slept well, still do. After a few months they moved out and you guessed it, another creepy family moved in. Sometimes I feel a little sorry for the poor boyfriend and what I did, but only for a nanosecond, and then I roll over laughing. Yeah, it was worth it. I did talk to him once before they moved out and he said she threw one of her high heels so hard it stuck in the wall right next to his head. I never did tell him about the wire, so if you are reading this, no, I'm not sorry, and thanks for the good laugh that has lasted for years. And the next one is titled F with my car, lose your home. Hey everybody, I'm a longtime lurker and big fan of this sub. This is also my first post, so here is my obligatory apology, any formatting errors and the length. I condensed this post as much as I could, but I needed to include relevant background. I never thought I would have any interesting stories to post here that would qualify as pro-revenge, but boy did the world have other plans for me, or should I say my a-hole neighbors did. On to the background. I should start by saying that I don't live in the best area of town, but it wasn't absolutely awful until the summer began, when my next door neighbors' teenaged kids and their friends had nothing better to do than loiter around all day and be loud and commit petty crimes. The people below my next door neighbors had a rock thrown through their window, several neighbors had minor car damage like dents from them sitting on cars or throwing basketballs around and inevitably hitting cars. These tools would bang on people's doors for the fun of it and would sit in a large group clogging up the only stairs up to my apartment and be rude when I would try to step over or around them. They never stood up for a second to let me by. I should add that 2 or 3 families lived next door in a 2-bedroom unit, literally at least 12 to 15 people, way over capacity. They also had friends over constantly and would yell and scream and fight with each other all the time. Luckily, never too late at night though. Despite all of these nuisances, I never complained about them. Sure, it was obnoxious as hell, but I'm not really a complainer and I wasn't losing any precious sleep. I'm a pretty easygoing tenant, I pay my rent and bills on time every month, my dog never barks, etc. And now, the events. Unfortunately for my good neighbors and myself, their crimes escalated in severity. They actually broke into my cool downstairs neighbor's place. He caught them red-handed trying to steal his stuff. He called the cops and made a police report and everything, but somehow nothing was done. I suspect it is because he used to be cool with these neighbors and actually look after and feed some of the kids, so he had a relationship with them and they had been in his place before. Anyway, them breaking into his place really freaked me out because my downstairs neighbor is a huge, scary looking guy, but is actually super nice, while I'm a 22-year-old girl who lives with 2 other girls my age. So if they would break into his place, I contemplated getting security cameras for my own place after my downstairs neighbor told me what happened to him and showed me his new setup. But unfortunately, before I could, that is when it happened. Days later, when I got up in the morning to go to school, my tire was completely flat. They slashed my tire, I was livid. I had never done anything to any of them. My tires are good quality tires and were brand new, literally 3 weeks old and a gift from my dad. I barely had the money to replace my slashed tire. As most of you probably know, car insurance and tire warranties don't cover vandalism to tires, so I had to buy the replacement in full. These little a-holes have been committing crimes, destroying property and basically getting away with it despite complaints to management and police reports. I swore to my girlfriend and myself that day that I would see to it that these horrible people would get evicted. I didn't care how long it took, I knew it was a matter of time before they did something else that would warrant it. After I filed a police report, I showed my manager the pictures of my clearly slashed tire to file a complaint. He promised if they got one more complaint of property damage, they would be out. I also got that security system I wanted. And now, the revenge. Well, the revenge is not the most glamorous or exciting revenge. What did I do? I documented everything. Every time they clogged the stairs, which they had been warned about multiple times, every time they were exceptionally loud, which they had been warned about multiple times as well, every time they did anything that would count as a violation that I had overlooked in the past. Nope, screw these people. Easygoing OP was no more, not for them. My apartment manager actually encouraged me to report them for every little thing, I suspect because he was sick of these a-holes too. But I knew before I would send him my compiled report, I had to have something good. 2 weeks passed, I hardly saw them around, all quiet on the Western Front. Until they finally came back thinking that they had laid low long enough and the heat was off of them. Since the tire slashing incident, I have been parking at the building across the parking lot instead of right in front of my own building, because that is where they always used to hang out. On Sunday, I caught one of the a-holes sitting on the hood of my car talking to a bunch of the others. But they all ran away before I could yell at them to get off my car. Upon further inspection, I noticed that there was actually a large shallow dent on my hood from them repeatedly sitting on my car. My roommate's car had a similar dent and I see them sit on my downstairs neighbor's friend's car all of the time. Well, today I decided to park right in front of my apartment where I used to park in full view of my new security system, and lo and behold, footage of them sitting and banging on my car. I sent my manager the angriest mail I could muster while still maintaining completely respectful language with the footage attached, of course. I told him something must be done. I got an email back within minutes thanking me for notifying him and informing me that he would serve them a notice to vacate tomorrow. They will have 30 days. F with my car? Lose your home. As I type this while sipping my fresh iced tea, I can hear those kids playing basketball, probably hitting more cars in the process, and shouting and laughing. I cannot help but smile, knowing they won't be laughing for long. This is not the interesting update many of you are hoping for. I just wanted to clarify a few things and address some popular questions and comments here instead of responding individually. First, I'm not going to say what the race of the perpetrators is. I don't want to make sweeping generalizations or cause racial tension, plus it would probably break Rule 6. Use your imagination, maybe it is exactly what you would expect or maybe it isn't, does not matter. Second, taking them to civil court for damages would not be realistic at this time. They only slashed one of my tires, which is not enough to meet the monetary quota. And I don't even have solid proof of that. The only proof I have is of them sitting on my car and my neighbor's friend's car, and those dents are very shallow. They can be fixed with a plunger. I'm just more irritated due to them giving no Fs about other people's property and continuing to be destructive a-holes despite repeated warnings. Also, I don't know the identities of most of these kids. Most of them are not my neighbor's kids, they are their friends. None of these people have any money anyway. I did make a police report about my slashed tire, and as expected, the cops never called me back. Third, I said this in a comment that is pretty high up, but I want to repeat it in the body of the post. My manager promised to keep everything confidential, and it is unlikely that they would assume it is me who complained. So, while retaliation against me is specifically possible, it is not super likely. They have made a lot of enemies, including neighbors, who are more vocal about their complaints. While I have barely any interactions with my next door neighbors, I am continuing to act normal to not let on. I plan on moving when my lease is up in December anyway, but realistically, if they do anything else to me or my property, I will effectively be forced to move out early. I'm sure if it does come down to that, my manager wouldn't give me any trouble about it. Edit. Hey guys, I'm back for an update as promised. I went ahead and made a separate post. I hope that is okay. You can check it out here. And guys, if you have watched until here, please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments, and if you really want to make me happy, I would really appreciate if you could also like the video. Thank you so much for your support, it means the world to me and it is extremely helpful in regards to beating the YouTube algorithm. Update to the F with my car, lose your home story. To pick up where we left off, when I came home the day after everything in my previous post happened, my downstairs neighbor informed me that our apartment manager had kept his word and indeed delivered the notice to vacate to the crappy neighbors. The day after that, the crappy neighbors immediately began to move out their larger belongings, washer, dryer, furniture, etc. In fact, I noticed that most of their large brood had went ahead and moved out then as well. The remaining family took their time with the rest of their belongings, and luckily there were no more incidents. They are finally gone as of this morning, hooray! Of course, there were a few random items / trash / food left behind on their front doorstep and lots of tiny bits of broken glass on the stairs, but they are really gone. The sad news is, as if these people were not awful enough, they abandoned their poor sweet indoor-only cat. It was so sad to come home to. The poor thing was huddled in my dead plants by my front doorstep. My girlfriend left him some tuna and water before she had to leave for work this morning, and my other roommate said he was meowing and pawing at the door to his old home until she had also had to leave for work. I would have kept the kitty if I could, even though I'm not a huge cat person, because he is really super sweet. The second I came home, he nuzzled me and curled up in my lap when I sat with him. But unfortunately we couldn't keep him because of a 2-pet limit, and if anyone is wondering why neither of them brought him into our apartment temporarily, it is because my roommate has a cat, and since we didn't know the vaccination status of the neighbor's kitty, we did not want to risk him giving her cat feline HIV or feline leukemia or something else. So I brought the kitty to the shelter. The shelter called my manager to confirm that he was indeed abandoned inside of the apartment and that he was an indoor-only cat, which my manager confirmed to the shelter when he passed along the crappy neighbor's info. The cat was moved outside after he was abandoned because management had to clean the apartment. So the shelter accepted him and said they would have the cops confront the family for animal abandonment. They may even face prosecution for abandonment charges because my manager was a witness to the abandonment and able to confirm it. So looks like their kitty may also get some justice. At the very least, he will get a new, way better home and proper care. Please don't worry about the kitty being in the shelter. My city is no kill, and just in case the shelter does end up releasing him, unlikely as it is a catch/spay and neuter release program for ferals and strays. I have a friend who runs her own animal rescue, and she said she will take him in if the shelter either releases him or puts him up for euthanasia, which is highly unlikely as well. I got his intake ID number to keep track of his status, and I made sure that the shelter knew that he was very sweet and gentle and has lived with very small babies and toddlers as well as small dogs. Anyway, I realized that this update was largely uneventful and that it went a totally different direction than expected. I mean, I wasn't expecting it either, although I am completely unsurprised that they abandoned their lovely cat given their history of being complete and total douche canoes. Hopefully you enjoyed this closure as well as the bonus cat justice. At it again, alright gang, unfortunately I am back. Are you ready for this? Because I sure as hell wasn't. It's been chill all day, and then about an hour ago I heard some loud whispering, quiet talking out front of my door. At first I was distracted while watching Drunk History and thought it was the downstairs neighbor being loud, not the cool one, the other one, and just what little sound made it upstairs. But then I slowly realized it was coming not from downstairs but from directly in front of my door. I am home alone, so I grab my tomahawk and peek out of my peephole. And I kid you not, I see 10 to 12 people sitting right on my doorstep. All huddled against each other. It kind of reminded me of a protest, or if they were about to become their final form. I practically crapped bricks. This was not what I was expecting. Plus remember, I had barely seen any of them since they were served a month ago, and furthermore, I only recognized 1 or 2 of them. Most of them had large bags or small suitcases, so I am thinking, what in the ever-loving crap? So I text my girlfriend and my roommate, and they both confirm that they both spoke with the manager when he stopped by with the cleaning crew, and the former occupants 112% moved out this morning. I contemplated calling the cops right then, but I decided to wait a bit to see if they left. I figure, what if it is that other family that lived there and they didn't get the memo? At the same time, 2 of them I recognize, so wouldn't have they told them? About 30 minutes later it goes quiet, and of course my dog has to pee. I look again and don't see anyone, so I take my dog outside. No one, but I glance back up at the apartments from across the parking lot and I see lights on inside of theirs. So of course I'm like, oh my god, they are inside of their old place somehow. I fast walk back to the stairs and my downstairs neighbor is outside, so I ask him what the hell is going on. So he tells me that they decided to try to come back. Why? What is their grand plan? I don't know, maybe to squat for one more day. Anyway, apparently one tried to break in using a coat hanger while the others waited, and when that didn't work, they left. He is positive our manager changed the locks and says the manager must have left the light on. But they ultimately failed to get in and my neighbor is positive they all left. I sent the manager quite the email about this. The somewhat scary thing is my downstairs neighbor said our manager wanted to wait a day to change the locks because of the cat, but my neighbor insisted that he not wait because he had a feeling that they would come back. Good guy neighbor, right again. God, I hate these people and I am so done living here. Graduation cannot come soon enough. And Ripe Stars, once again I would like to encourage you, if you have any interesting stories about awful neighbors, please don't hesitate to either post them in the comments or even better on Reddit on r/ripestories, which is our own subreddit. If you post on r/ripestories and if it is a good story, there's a good chance that I might read it in a video if you wish. And guys, unfortunately we have already reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories, and if you haven't already, please also go to patreon.com/ripeyoutube, where I upload exclusive Reddit videos starting at just $3 a month. This is a great way to support me in case you are interested, and the chance for me to become independent from YouTube revenue. Thank you so much for watching, please don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.